was I supposed to? Hi.
Hey, how are you, sister?
Am I there yet? I don't. Oh, I'm not back. There we go. Okay, now I'm on stage. Hello, hello. We are live with Foy and Susan and Hillary. It's good to see you. And we're waiting on a few other people to join us. And while we wait, you guys, I'm just going to explain to people what a leader team is before we jump in and just be our leader team together. Thanks for being willing to do this live. It's a little crazy, and we're all adventure risk takers. So, of course, we would be the ones here. So, and mostly extroverts for that matter. But all right, what's a leader team? So, welcome those of you who might be watching now or later on the recorded video. Luke 10 has a training pathway, and it starts with our Church 101 course, which really is a kind of initiating us into being church in a relational way that's joy-filled and Jesus-led. So we're trying to rewrite or reimagine what church really could be like if it were relational and Jesus was leading. And so that's what the Church 101 course really is all about. But it really just is an introduction to skills and to ways of being together that most people don't have already, and they need to grow and deepen in. And so we provide leader teams or communities of practice. That's what they are. We call them leader teams. They're communities of practice where our leaders can join and deepen these skills, practice together what it's like to be the people of God relationally. And we mess up together, and we get to do redo stories together, and we call each other out on our stuff together, and we learn to do it lovingly, gently, kindly. We learn to do it with the fruit of the Spirit, really, while we're being who we are. It's just an amazing place to play and to be reminded of the most important things that we're supposed that we can focus on. So I might even ask you guys what you appreciate most about Leader Team, why you're even a part of one. That might be helpful for other people too. But I also want to do kind of our normal rhythms as well. So I'm thinking that we always begin with appreciation because we want to turn our relational circuits on. And in Luke 10, as you guys know, we don't do appreciation. Oh, good. Colleen's coming on. Hi, Colleen. Come on in. She's backstage so she can hear us. You'll see her when she pops up on stage. Do you know how to get on stage, Colleen? She's shaking her head yes. Okay. Otherwise, I can do it for you, I think.
Oh, can you do it for me? I'm just trying to remember here.
And here you come. There you are.
Hi. Hillary showed me, but I froze. It's like, shoot, what did she show me?
That's okay.
Okay.
So I'm just explaining a little about leader teams and for people who might be watching this. Thanks for being willing to just jump in like this. And so I was talking about our appreciation round, that we always start with that round. And, you know, as y'all are all oldies with Luke 10, so you know this, but if someone new were on the call, I would tell them, you know, this appreciation round, it's a story. We're looking for a memory where we were fully alive, where we were glad to be alive, where we were glad to be here right now. So usually it's a moment where you were present. You were actually present with what was happening. And in some way you were appreciating that moment. And so we asked God for these memories, for an appreciation memory, where I was fully alive and appreciating life. And we turn it into a 2-minute story where we share enough of the story so that we can all enter into it. And then we share how we felt physically and how we felt emotionally, which is really challenging for a lot of us a lot of the times because we've never been trained to do that. And we'll go around. I think we'll just do it. We'll just jump right in and do it. And then we might go around and let you all share how appreciation made you feel and why we practice this, things that you think are important about that. And if appreciation of leader teams come up, then that's great. We can appreciate why we're a part of a leader team together. So if you want to even ask Jesus, maybe there's a leader team appreciation memory I might have. And that way we can share with people a little bit of why we do this, the thing that we do. But if God leads you somewhere else, that's perfectly okay too. I'm giving so much room for Jesus to just take over. But is that clear enough where maybe I'd like to go if that's all right with him? All right, great. So I'll give us a minute or so to just center and ask Jesus what kind of appreciation he wants to stir up in us today, or ask our own heart where I'm at today and where my appreciation is, and what story I'd like to tell. Sound good? Minute and a half. All right. All right. So why don't we introduce ourselves, just for people who don't know us, even though, oh, really, Susan and Foy don't know each other. Oh, yay. Oh my goodness. We get to do Gentle Curiosity then today. Oh, I totally didn't know you two didn't know each other. What a great opportunity. Oh, I'm so excited. Okay. So as you know, when we have a new person who doesn't know other people on the team, we always do Gentle Curiosity. So do we want to do appreciation and then do Gentle Curiosity after that? Does that sound like a good go? Okay. So introduce yourself before you dive into your appreciation. Where are you? Maybe in one sentence, what brought you to Luke 10? If you can do that. We might not be able to do that, but if we can. And then be thinking of some gentle, curious questions for Foy and for Susan, since they do not know each other. This is so exciting. Okay. So I am Tony Daniels. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, brought to Luke 10 because of a deep desire to be church relationally and train others to do so. Oh, my appreciation story. So this came like that. I mean, many of you were there for this moment, I think. About 2 years ago, maybe, I think, right at the end of the COVID, or at the beginning of the COVID thing, my son was having a really rough time being home and being kind of homeschooled. Long story short, I showed up on a leader team as the facilitator and just shared that I was really struggling with where to send him to school that next year and a lot of things like that. And I guess y'all could tell that it was heavy. And Hillary stopped everyone and she's like, Tony, wait. And she responded in the way that it's like us to do when someone shares something heavy. And she said, she's eating right now, or she would say it. She said,
what do you need from us right now? You just shared something pretty heavy and you kind of wanted to blow by it real quick. But even though you're the leader, you're allowed to have needs.
And she did that. And I was like, and I think I said all of the above, because then she offered the multiple choices and we have 5, right? And I said all of the above. I needed all of it. And over the whole thing, everyone listened to Jesus for me. They gave stories, they gave advice. We did it all. And I felt so seen, so cared for, so loved, first of all. But then after the listening to Jesus, I felt deeply encouraged and hopeful, which was amazing. And Susan, I don't know if you remember the end of the story, but in that call, you said, gee, I just hear God saying you don't have all the pieces. You don't have all the pieces. And you were absolutely right, because when school started back, there were situations that happened that I couldn't control. And I think he ended up being home educated or something, but I had no choice over it. Anyway, there was a whole piece to it that I didn't know yet. And so when it all came together and I didn't have to make a hard decision, I was like, wow, Susan really heard from God. Anyway, that's more than 2 minutes. I think I should have timed myself. But that was the story that came to mind immediately, is how my needs got met that day. And for something so tender as my son. And thank you guys for showing up as you and being that for me. So I'm in. Hillary, are you eating still, or are you ready?
I am still eating. I would love to get a few more bites in if someone else can go first.
Great. All right. I will set our timer for 2 minutes just so we all have we can figure out close to where we are. Susan, go for
it. Okay. So, unfortunately, I'm having to do this call in Chick-fil-A, so I apologize for the background noise. So Susan Ramsey, and I am currently in Texarkana, Texas. And it was interesting because I was listening to you describe the appreciation stories, and the first thing that popped in my head, it doesn't have to do with Leader Team, but probably my biggest appreciation happens at the conference. Because that is absolutely the time when I come fully alive. Standing, like specifically, I was thinking about last year at Montgomery Bell, standing in the front lobby, and just every time somebody would walk in, I'd be like, "Can I hug you?" Because we're trying to be COVID sensitive, and it's like, "Can I hug you?" And then just hug. And of course, everybody was like, "Yes, please hug me." So I don't think anybody told me no. But yeah, that's for an Enneagram 2. That is like the highlight, is being able to greet somebody right up front, see them for the first time, or see them for the first time in person, maybe. And so, yeah, I love doing the conference, and then I love just that first initial greeting with everybody. And so I really appreciate that we have that opportunity and that I get to fill that role with Luke 10. So.
And how does it feel in your body? You might have said it, but I didn't grasp the words.
Oh, I showed you.
You did tell me, but tell me.
Excuse me. So big smile, just like bubbly excitement, and yeah, it's like so hard not to just immediately go up and hug somebody.
Energy and kind of impulse.
Absolutely, yes.
Beautiful. Well, thank you. Yeah, and you stay that way almost the entire conference without tiring somehow. I'm not sure how, but
I'll just say I'm remembering lots of hugs when I walked into the conference. So,
yeah.
Remind me, Susan.
Probably.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
Uh-huh.
All right. Colleen, you're eating. Can we go to Hillary? Are you up now? Ready?
Sure am. I am Hillary. I am tuning in live from Baltimore. And let's see here. I was trying to think of an appreciation that wasn't today, but today's was the only one coming up, which is actually a back to joy story as well. But maybe we'll get into that. Maybe we won't. But real quick, I really wanted to wake up early this morning and have some time to myself and go for a walk and maybe do some yoga. But I stayed in bed because I needed it. I made that decision, and then I kept trying to adjust and to get that thing that I wanted, and I couldn't do it. So my frustration was building, and then tons of other things and tons of other factors were just bringing me into frustration and anger. And then I reached out to my husband and my best friend, and I was like, guys, I'm having a really hard time. I don't know what I need to do. I can't do anything right now. I'm stuck on bed. And they were so gentle with me and asking and being available for me, just to be like, I'm mad at the world. And also I'm mad at these rats in my backyard that are eating the mint that I planted for myself. This is my mint. The rats can get their own mint. Just the littlest thing was really annoying. and they were just there for me and loving on me. And through them being there for me and loving me despite my frustration and anger was part of what brought me back to joy, and part of my strength that got me out of the door and got me out of the house to get on a walk and get some coffee. And I felt so held, cared for, and appreciated. And my best friend's currently in California, and my husband's like an hour away at work, and they both were available to me when I needed them, and that felt really cool and can bring me to tears if I think about it too much. So yeah, really, really grateful and thankful for people in my life. So
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
I do that because I moved to tears because that's my daughter, and that son-in-law is awesome. And so I get very teary whenever he's being a great husband.
And we can talk it more because I started to text him some self-hate, and he was like, wow, that sounds like some pretty aggressive self-hate you got going on there. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, do you want to tell me more about that? These are texts. And then I did. And he goes, little sad face emoji, and says, I'm sorry you're feeling that way. Is there anything I can do to help? And I just was like crying. I was like, yeah, that right there, that helped.
Oh, so thank you. So yeah, I get personally moved, and then I have to calm myself. So that's what the deep breath is. It's me soothing and appreciating.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Boy.
Hey, I just got to say that Hillary's husband's really setting the bar high for the rest of us. I mean, that's unbelievable. Wow.
In many ways, he does.
He's pretty great. He's also most likely not watching, so I can brag on him.
I am also wearing my Tennessee shirt today.
Woohoo!
Tony, so boom, got the heart. I feel like my day is complete. See you later.
Yes.
So yeah, my name's Foy Bellier. I'm living in Delray Beach currently, just south of West Palm, just above of Fort Lauderdale, and one of the most beautiful places in the United States. Wearing a great number of hats, working with a number of different organizations, as well as serving as father or abbot, however you want to look at that, of a digital church with multiple expressions. So that's been really cool to be part of that. First exposed to Luke 10 a number of years ago with some of the tools that John White put in the hands of one of my colleagues, who passed them on to me, and ended up in a book that I wrote. And one day while I was coaching someone, I'm like, you know what? I really ought to reach out to John White, since I'm using some of his material. I mean, it was attributed, but like, I don't even know this guy. This is really good stuff. So I reached out to John. He and I connected, and he connected me with this wild and amazing woman in Nashville. And here we are. Somehow I ended up on the leader team, usually the token male. But I'm just delighted to be filled in by such amazing folks on the leadership team. So
I will say there's 2 other men on our team, but they all seem to rotate in and out. Like, I don't think we've had all 3 of them together. So guys, if you're listening, we'd love to have all 3 of you next time.
Yeah, we're all dealing with discouragement, I guess. So we just got to rotate in as the Spirit moves us and this tank gets filled. I'm not sure, but my appreciation story today actually took place on a leadership team call with a couple of the ladies who are on this call, where I was coming face to face with the fact of how I had marginalized women in my ministry, and how the Lord was doing some deconstruction and reconstruction. There was a lot of tears, and I got choked up, and apologized to the ladies on the team, not necessarily for my contributions to their lack of activation and appreciation in the church and its structure, but on behalf of some of my brothers, perhaps, who don't know any better yet. So, and they cared for me gently in that moment. And being a military guy, that was hard, but it was good to receive that. So that's me. I'm all in.
Thanks a lot.
Boy, I remember that. That was a very tender moment for me because of some things going on with another male in ministry, and felt like the Lord used that to bless me because he wasn't able to, but you were. So thank you for that.
Yeah, and Hillary and I today, she interviewed me, and that came up actually in the interview, not that specific leader team meeting, but some of the ways that I was squelched as a young leader in the church, and how I haven't experienced that at all with Luke 10, but the opposite of being blessed and encouraged. And so thanks, Boy, for being part of that.
Mm-hmm.
Whew, you guys have me in tears today. Okay, Colleen. Thank you, Boy.
Yes, my name's Colleen Caskey, and my husband and I found Luke 10 in 2018. We were just Googling how to start a house church, and Church 101 came up, and we realized we found much more than just how to start a house church, but a community that was equipping us as spiritual moms and dads in our community. We had been longing to, there's a number of reasons, but just longing for a different expression of church. And I think I'm in full-time ministry, and in my ministry with InterVarsity, I run free as a woman and feel affirmed. But in my church space, just felt pretty stifled in a lot of ways. So that's been a benefit of being in Luke 10, just that permission to run free with each of you. So my appreciation story comes from my leader. I'm on a leader team on Sundays that I facilitate. And this past Sunday, I'm going to share about that meeting because we just moved from Virginia to Charleston, South Carolina, which, boy, I would argue I might be in the most beautiful spot in the U.S. because it's pretty incredible here. Sitting in our new home and our new.
I didn't realize you were there already.
We're here, so it's been quite the adjustment. Moving, I'm glad to be here. Moving is no fun, and I just feel like. And I'm leading a big initiative for work this week or this month. So it's just been a lot of stress, a lot of trying to enjoy our new place, meet people, but just feeling overwhelmed. And I didn't realize how much of that I was carrying into like going to our leader team. And our leader team was just a very normal, good, everyone was there. You know, we just a really good, nothing special happened, but just good connection. We talked a lot about the 67 experiment, you know, just kind of doing our rounds and our rhythms, and very easy as a facilitator to just be with that community and not feel like I had to overly lead or shape our time. And then at the closing round, just realized how much joy I was feeling, and realized that, I was coming in with pretty low joy just with all that was going on in my life. And even Greg and I weren't connecting as well as, you know, we were kind of naming, like, we feel distant from each other. And so much of that just had to do with having low joy. And so the fact that we ended that team and I was like, I'm so joy fueled right now. And we talked about like the 67 experiment. Like, it wasn't even something particularly, you know, it's just like we were just connecting as we do. And just the joy of being together, and then being able to name that and have people affirm that. Just really felt like I just felt like a lightness, like a ability. It's like my relational circuits were off and then they got turned on. And even after the call, then Greg and I were able to connect, make some decisions about things that we were missing each other on before, that just all of a sudden felt easy. And Greg is on that leader team too. So yeah, that was just a really sweet moment this Sunday, and just been really grateful for this community and the rhythms and the skills that we need. So
thank you. Oh man, that's so amazing. So beautiful. Thanks. Okay. Let's do some gentle curiosity. I mean, Hillary and I and Colleen, you can ask us questions too, but I'm thinking that Susan knows all of us, Foy knows all of us. So Susan and Foy don't know each other. So I'd love to just ask maybe Susan some gentle, curious questions first. And Foy, if you have one, you can go for it first. And then Hillary and Colleen and I can pitch in as if you don't have any questions, we can go for it. So anyone, or Foy, do you have any questions for Susan that you'd like to know about her?
I think I'd like to know, I love the fact that you love Luke 10. I'd like to know a little bit about how the Spirit has gifted you and how you're using that in your context.
Tell him how you came to Luke 10 too, because I don't know if he knows.
Yeah. So I was born into Luke 10, basically. My dad is John White. So when I say I've been here from the beginning, I literally have been here from the beginning.
Of course he is. Why am I not surprised?
Yes. So, yeah, so I've been helping him with it for a long, long time. But we pretty much probably about, I don't know, probably 7 or 8 years ago, we pretty much exclusively just do Luke 10 in terms of church. So we don't have a traditional church that we're a part of or a house church. So, and then what, 2 or 3 years ago, Tony, I think, I officially came on staff. I've been doing stuff for Luke 10 even before Tony was around, but officially came on staff with Luke 10. And I have several hats, as you would say, that I wear. So I am an assistant for my dad. I am have been the conference planner, event planner. I'm a part of the finance circle and also a part of the general circle. So just kind of have little bits and pieces here and there throughout the organization that I either help with or stay in touch with. So,
Susan, he asked your passion and your gifting a little bit in there, and so I'm wondering if you'd share with him who your character is that you identify most with. This is fun. We do this, okay? But and what you feel passionate about besides hugging people, which I know is a big deal.
Yeah. So my character is Eowyn from Lord of the Rings. Yeah, I'm what am I passionate about? I'm passionate about people. So I'm an extrovert. I'm a people person. It's actually one of the hard parts about Luke 10 for me is that unless you have a local expression, there isn't any face-to-face contact. And unfortunately, in what my husband and I are doing right now, we don't have a local expression. So literally, our church contact is through these videos. So by the time I get to the conference, I'm so starved for contact with people that it's like, oh.
And part of that's because you live in an RV and y'all travel, right? And so local expression is very hard at this point for you, and you're just transitioning into the yeah.
Yes, yeah, we live in an RV full time. We started doing that about a year and a half ago. And the reason that we did that was we lost my mom very unexpectedly in 2018. And we just decided, we started thinking, we don't have any kids, and we lost out on our chance to spend time with her. We had opportunities and we didn't take them, thinking there would be plenty. And so we decided, let's sell our house and get an RV and spend half the year with his family and half the year with my family. And so in the process of getting the RV, we discovered that there's such a thing as an RV repair tech. And my husband is very mechanical. And so he went to school for that, and we started a business. And so that's what we do to support ourselves while we're living in the RVs. So summertime is our time to be in Texas, which is why we're here. We just got here at the beginning of the month. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Susan before we go to Foy? All right.
If you can't think of them right now, we have a gentle curiosity session with Susan on Friday. So if you're watching and you have a follow-up question, please leave it in the comments and we will get to it on Friday.
Thank you.
Actually, can I ask a clarifying question about that? What are the gentle curiosity sessions? I saw that on the schedule.
Yeah, so we are interviewing and talking with all of our staff and our trainers, and we're really just getting to know them and their journey with Luke 10 and ask some other gentle, curious questions that might come up. So it kind of looks like this, but we get a full hour for that one person. So yesterday we had gentle curiosity with Zach and Ben Hamilton, and then John actually did an interview with Jim and Kathy. That's kind of like gentle curiosity, but it was more so interview style.
And I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. Once you can watch it, because Jim and Kathy, not many people know them, but they're part of the backbone of Luke 10, and they are so amazing. So I was in tears today and inspired watching their interview.
That's
cool. The replay is in our updates, and sadly you can't see the updates until we aren't live. And so you go to the updates once we're no longer live, and then you can watch the replays. We have a gentle curiosity session with Jonathan Johnson today at 4 p.m. Eastern, I believe. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Foy, gentle curious questions for Foy, and Susan will give you first pick.
I'm just curious to hear more about what got you here. So I'm sure you're going to share that. So
yeah. Have used, like I said before, I'd used some of John's tools and had found them very effective, and had some colleagues who had spent some time in his orbit about a decade ago or so. So when he and I connected, we had some things in common, and he suggested I talk to Tony, and Tony invited me into her orbit, and kind of
skipping all protocol.
Say again?
Apparently skipping all protocol.
Oh.
He's been here for like a year and he hadn't even signed up yet, we noticed last week.
Wow, did you just go there? I can't believe you publicly humiliated.
Live, too.
I'm saying I skipped all protocol, which is not what I'm supposed to do. That was me, not on you. That was on me.
Listen,
but apparently I was so moved by your presence that I just skipped everything and said, come on.
Well, I feel like the prom queen right now. I don't know what to say. I mean, unbelievable. Everybody wants to hang out with me and they make special accommodations. So
apparently.
Completely derailed what I was going to say. I don't even know where I'm going to go now, but I guess I'll just button it up and we'll have some other probing questions that have the distinct possibility of potentially humiliating me. So,
I have a question if you want to answer a different question.
well, let me finish up now that your mama just put it out there. I mean, I can't take that laying down. That's not how I'm wired. Anyways, she invited me to travel with you all, having at least a inkling of the rebel that I am by nature. So I keep showing up for these things, and I'm not even really sure why. This just goes to prove it. So there, I'm done. Go ahead, Hillary.
Thank you. You very briefly mentioned this in your how you got here in the beginning, but you said you wrote a book. Tell us. I would love to hear more about this book and what that meant for you and kind of what it's about.
Yeah. So, church. After I was done in the military, I taught school for a couple of years, went to seminary, and then did about 20 years or so in the pastoral, traditional pastor pathway. And my last gig, formally speaking, was with the Evangelical Free Church of America. And like most traditions that had been effectively church planting from the Jesus movement time, probably well before you were born, Hillary, to about the year 2000, everybody started slowing down and having some real problems with church planting, shutting them down as fast as they were opening them. So the Free Church got all their wild and crazy dudes that were doing things a little differently together to talk about church health. And then it very quickly became a conversation around discipleship and how we were really good at gathering people in auditoriums and teaching Bible doctrine and showing up at soup kitchens, but not really doing or experiencing much in terms of personal transformation and living in the way of Jesus. So out of these conversations, about 6 fellas were left standing. It felt like Paris Island at the end. You know, so about a half dozen of us walked across the parade deck with the uniform. So somehow I got tasked. I think it's because nobody else wanted to do it and stepped backward, and I was standing out front where I hadn't moved. So the VP for National asked me if I'd put together the distillation of our conversations around what it looked like to create a simple, beautiful, reproducible pathway to create disciples in local expressions, whatever those looked like. And at that time, it was more traditionally minded. So based on believing that the kingdom of God is here now, what do we need to do? So 5 Stones is the name of the book. And I wrote it with a colleague of mine who was in that cadre, and basically came up with 5 questions every disciple needs to be able to answer. What are we to do? So Great Commission, Great Commandment. How are we to do it? The empowerment of the Holy Spirit. When are we to do it? Daily, weekly, monthly, annual rhythms. With whom? Kind of recovery of the Puritan family altar, as well as embracing church as family. So that was one of the things that attracted me to Luke 10. And then towards what end? And that's living as residential missionaries. So all of those had prayer practices and very practical exercises attached to it. And it got some level of notoriety. And I spent quite a bit of time speaking and ended up exhausted and leaving the pastoral career. That's the quick answer to that, Hillary. I hope that answers your question.
Definitely. Thank you. I hadn't heard much about your book beforehand, so I really appreciate getting to hear a little bit about what that was like for you and then having you here today.
Well, I try to play it down, actually, so I won't be accused of being pompous, particularly the way your mother jumps all over me with both feet.
You love being picked on. We talked about that today, Foy, in her interviewing me. It came out about shining, right? And how some of us were created to shine, but how we were taught that was bad, because if we shine, then other people, get jealous, or we somehow hurt them, or we're bragging on ourselves, or, and obviously there is a a way that we can shine and brag, but that's not what we're talking about, right? We're talking about the shining part. So I appreciate you bringing that out today, that, yeah, you're allowed to shine. We like that when you shine. Yeah. So thank you for shining a little today and letting us see that brightness. Colleen.
And Foy, so this is the book that you were quoting some of John White's stuff in it. And do you, I'd love to know what pieces you were drawn to that you wanted to include without even knowing him, but what things was John White teaching that you wanted to have included?
The sachet tool was the primary one. Yeah, I thought that was, and again, this would be, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, maybe even 10 years ago when we started working on it. That relational connection piece was absent from the church conversation at large.
Yeah.
So for someone who's high A, I took the Enneagram test. I think it was 8 or something. Jason would know. He's my partner and collaborator. We balance each other out, I guess. Military, task-oriented, traumatic experiences in childhood and those kinds of things. Relationally connecting with other people was a growth point for me outside of their utility, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. Really cool to see you drawn to include that in this pretty important book, like 10 years before, like where we're at now with people just really catching on to the need for emotional health.
And it's, you know, I use the tool everywhere. I use it everywhere and people love it. They have for ever since we started implementing it in proto form in 2011 or so.
Wow.
Because it meets a deep need to know and be known, right? So, yeah, I particularly love the way it recontextualized how we minister to one another and how many of us who are spiritual leaders want to go into counselor, coach, mentor mode when most people just want to be able to be heard and receive prayer. So,
yeah,
it was really good.
Yeah.
It sounds like we've talked a lot this week in Luke 10 about changing culture and how that's much bigger and much more difficult to do because culture is its values and practices of a given people, right? And to actually shift values and then shift practices of a given people is not an easy task. And it sounds like this book is an impulse, and then what you do with it is an impulse to change Christian culture, right? And bring these types of values into it. And it sounds very, very difficult doing it in the institution like you were doing it. So would you say that's kind of what brought you to burnout? I know this isn't an interview of Foy, but man, we could have an interview of Foy, but just a little longer and then we'll move on, Foy. But could you say something about that? What led to the burnout?
Well, if the book, just for a point of clarification, if the book's ever reissued, the subscript's going to be How John White Ruined My Traditional Pastoral Ministry.
Ruined for life.
He's ruined a lot of people for you.
Yeah, he might be on the list of some people who are looking for me right now. So, yeah, for sure. Pastoral burnout. Why? Well, a lot of it's performative. I mean, at the end of the day, and utility based. And I think a lot of pastors, I don't think this was necessarily a significant contribution to my own burnout, but, live lonely lives. And I had people around me, so that wasn't as big a deal as it was for a lot of my peers. But the biggest piece of it, I think, doing a post-mortem on it, looking back, is I was recognizing deep in my spirit what I was doing was not accomplishing what my heart's desire was longing for, which is to see people transformed and live in joy and walk with Jesus and in families in a transformational way. And I just needed to step away from the pen and get some additional perspective and have some additional soul work done, to be perfectly honest. And academics, while necessary, are not the solution.
We really are honored to have you with us and so thankful. So
I have one more question.
Good, thank you. This is getting awkward. All right, go ahead, sister.
Oh, this is easy. This won't bother you at all. What branch of the service were you in, and how long were you in?
Well, why don't you take a guess, and we'll see how clearly you can read the nuances of the emotional subscript here.
Say either Army or Marine.
Well, the latter, yes, Marines. Yeah.
Okay.
That was my first guess.
I heard Paris Island. I was like, that's Marines, right?
That's a dead giveaway. Nice listening skills there, Colleen.
Well, I now live in South Carolina, so I'm learning about the nuances of the military here. I wouldn't have known that.
Charleston is a pretty hip and beautiful place, so I'm glad you landed there. 6 years with reserve time, Susan, Gulf War I era.
Nice.
I know I don't
Well,
look
thank
that
you for
old.
serving.
Yeah, you're welcome. I know I don't look that old, but I really don't.
all right. Well, that was our appreciation, attunement to a large degree, gentle curiosity, which we only do when we have people that don't know each other or we just want to. So I'm wondering, we have 45 minutes left, it looks like. So we have a good time to go into our leader lesson for the month. Last week we listened on the 67 experiment together, and that was so beautiful and life-giving and wonderful. And this month, what we do is we have content that we send out in the emails, right? Or you can find them on the web page. And I wanted to show you guys where it is in the portal, because sometimes our leader team people don't realize that you can find them on the portal here. So I wanted to share. Great. I think y'all can see this. I hope so. Can y'all see it? Can y'all hear me?
Not yet. You have to click the share screen button.
I did, and it said that another user was sharing their screen, which is weird. And then when I hit share, it says, please ensure permissions are granted for your browser and this website. So I don't know, maybe I won't be able to share, and that's fine if I can't.
I do have access to sharing screen if you want me to try.
That's okay. We don't have to worry about it. I was just going to show y'all the leader lesson for this week. Well, actually, Hillary, go ahead and do that, please, so that we can all see that leader lesson together.
So I have it pulled up on Google Docs. Would you like me to get there through the portal?
I would love for you to. I know it's in there. I added it this morning. So if you can be pulling that up. But so we have a portal that you all know about, but maybe people watching don't. And this is where we house all of our learning material. And our leader team lessons, we email them to you. So most of you get them in your inbox. But I wanted to show you, if you don't get them or if you can't find it in your inbox, you can always go to our portal and find it under leader team lessons. So it's right there. Hillary's going to show us right now. Great. There's our training materials. It says leader team, but then you see leader team lessons. So that's what that is. And then you click on that. And the most up-to-date one is the first one you'll see. So they're in order backwards, basically, so that you can get what you need first. Here we go. So that one is this month's leader lesson. If you haven't seen it, we'll just share it right here. And then you click on that, and it takes you to actually the PDF where it is housed. Yep. Great. So our leader lesson this month was really on listening around the conference, because we have a conference coming up, as Susan said. And what are those questions, Hillary? Let's just pause on those questions real quick. How do you feel about me attending the conference this year? Is there anything holding me back from attending or from fully engaging? So really that first question that we're going to listen on today is, do you want me there? Because, you know, a lot of times our first thinking is, oh, I can't go. I don't have the money. That's okay. I don't have the money. There's no way I could go. And we don't listen first. We listen to the obstacles first instead of listening to maybe what God wants for us. We've had people listen and Jesus say, no, absolutely not. You need to stay home with your spouse this year because they're going to go through something difficult. I mean, it's amazing what Jesus tells you. So we're not asking you to ask this, assuming that Jesus is going to tell you to come to the conference. We're asking you to ask this because we really, really, really value listening to God about what we do and how we do it and how he feels about what we do. So there's that. And then what do you want me to know about the theme this year, which is going local? And we can talk about that if we want to. And then what one thing you'd like, would you like to see emerge at this conference, Lord, and listen on that. So thank you, Hillary. You can stop sharing that. I think the next page is about virtual conference. And if you're interested in that, definitely email Hillary. But what we normally do here is just a reaction round to that lesson. That way we can all see what God's doing in us around it and if we want to spend time on it or not. Because sometimes people are like, I didn't look at it, right? And then we just move on to something else. Sometimes people come and go, wait, I have questions. I want to stay and hang out on this a little bit. And let's, so that's why we do the reaction round. So we can kind of get a pulse for what our heart's longing for, what God wants from us and today or wants to do with us today. And then we just follow him into each other's hearts and into where he leads. That makes sense? So reaction round to that lesson. If you didn't look at it, just give me a thumbs up if I call on you and we'll just keep moving. And if you did and you want to talk about it, then give a reaction or share if you've listened what you sense God saying. Okay. All right. Hillary, do you want to go first?
Sure. Well, I created the leader lesson this month, so I definitely looked at it. I definitely read it all because I wrote it all. My reaction is I really hope people are reading the third page about the virtual conference. I cannot do this virtual conference alone, and I will not be doing it alone. And I've already had a couple people come to me and ask to be a part of it. And I would love for more people to feel led to be part of a virtual conference for Luke 10. So yeah, I know that's a weird reaction to it, but that's my heart reaction to the virtual conference.
Makes me think when we pray 10 to be, that could be one of our 10 to be prayers. Lord, thrust out people to help with virtual conference, like moving them. Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Susan.
Can I ask you a question? Hillary, I'm curious how much of that kind of like the fact that you're drawn to that specifically comes out of you kind of running the virtual conference last year, and if you still have like stressful feelings from that, or so kind of, is there anything connected to running it last year and not enjoying that or something?
Yeah, that's a great question. And Tony's laughing because it is so real and right to the point. We don't skip anything in Luke 10. You guys can definitely feel that. So thank you for drawing it out. So just a little background for those of you watching. Last year was our first experiment with a virtual conference during the actual conference. So we had everybody join on Zoom and we had it live. We had a projector. We had like a million things going on at once. And I was typing and people were talking and it was like back and forth and it was really fun. I like new things. I like things with lots of variables. That's where I shine. That's my niche. I love figuring things out and doing things new. As we step back and we reflect, because we don't learn from experience unless we reflect on it, I realized that I was taking on way too much. And I also have this deep desire to improve everything. And if I'm not listening to that deep desire to improve everything, that desire turns into, you're the worst person ever because this could have been so much better. And that gets me in a really deep place, a really dark place, because my inner critic knows how much better it could be and also knows that I couldn't do it. And so that's just like those depressing thoughts that go there. And since we are a community of practice and a community who loves to come alongside each other and try new things and experiment together, I don't know when I decided this, but at some point I decided I'm not doing the virtual conference alone. And if nobody else comes, the virtual conference is not happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm very sorry to be making that live announcement, but if you're not emailing me and wanting to be on top of it and helping me push it forward, it's not going to happen, because I need you. I need support. And one of the other parts of my design is finding people who are good at things and then letting them go, bringing us together and releasing us to move forward. So yes, the stress was indicating, and then just some growth and passion along the way. And Tony had her hand raised.
Thank you for sharing all of that. And my follow-up question is, do you need people at the conference doing virtual conference, or people not at the conference doing virtual, or both?
Yeah, so if you look on the leader lesson, there's a little explanation of everything that I need. So we will need on the ground people and people online as well.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Page 3 has all the details about the virtual conference and what it is and what we need.
We can talk about this in general circle later, but I'm wondering if we need just that page 3 sent out to all of our people, maybe after the 67 experiment, kind of going, do you want a virtual conference? And boom, that, and that's it. That's the whole topic of that email. So people see it, because I'm guarantee you no one's looking at that 3rd page.
I know, right? So sad.
Boys saying yes to all this.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you for the questions.
Yeah. And Hillary, you didn't seem stressed at all by it last year. I was so impressed. I'm like, how is Hillary running this virtual thing? And so I did. It worked. I was so impressed. So
thank you. Yeah, I didn't feel the stress until afterwards, honestly. I was just full adrenaline and loving every step of it. Thanks.
Thanks. I love the way we lean into these things and learn from them and grow. It's just amazing. And Colleen, I've seen you do that after conferences too, and it's just beautiful. So, Susan, reactions, reflections on the lesson.
Yeah, so I didn't write it, but I knew everything that was in it. So I'm right there as well. And obviously I'm a little bit biased because the conference is like my thing. So yeah.
Have you been able to listen? Let me specify the question then. Have you ever been able to listen to Jesus on the conference at all yet? And if so, would you be able to share what you've sensed? Maybe you haven't, and that's okay.
So I have, and yeah, it's usually always the same thing, like, go have fun, honey. You know, it's like he knows that's my thing, and I can feel his joy, you know, when I interact with that stuff and go do that stuff. So we did also do some listening about Joel, my husband, because we weren't sure if he was going to go. And I'm really excited. He decided he wanted to go. He had a really good time last year, and he was like, I really want to go. So yeah, so I signed him up and got him on the list. So.
I'm so excited to hear that, because yes, we love him and need him in the ecosystem. He is such an amazing joy to have. I'm super excited about that. Thank you.
So.
Awesome. Colleen, what about you?
I'm going to the conference. I have not looked at the leader lesson. So.
All right. I can't wait.
It's nice that the conference is in my new state, so I can drive, and very excited about that.
Oh, yeah. That's exciting. Can't wait to see you. All right. Foy?
I am planning on attending. I got a couple of things I got to move around professionally, but I feel like the Lord's given me a green light. Jason did put the squeeze on me since he's moving. So I just can't get away from the manipulation. It's just as simple as that. So, yep, I'm going to be there.
Oh my goodness, that's too fun. Thank you. I'm so glad. I can't wait. Oh man. All right. Well, I have had the privilege of listening a lot on this conference because I am in a group right now, a breakout circle called the Emmanuel Night Circle with Kent Larson, Janelle and Tennyson Berry, Jason Twombly, and myself. And we're planning what we call the Emmanuel Night of the conference. And what is the Emmanuel Night? Those of you who've been to conferences have an experience of what that is. But what it is, so Luke 10, we teach church of two, right? And we practice church of two, not because that's the only expression of church, but because it's the one that's been missing from church, since, anyway. So, but we obviously, when we do church of two, we hope to gather with other churches of two and other churches of two. And so what happens when you get 50 churches of two together? So 100 people, or 25 churches of two together. And so you've got 50 people in a room. How do you be church in a way that's still relational and Jesus-led, still joy-fueled, connected heart to heart, and led by Jesus? Because what we have found is most people don't have the imagination to kind of even ignite what that could look like. And they go back to programmation. They go back to a preacher, a sermon, a teaching, and the worship. And people in chairs in rows. I mean, my goodness, in house churches, Jim and Kathy share about, Honey, I Shrunk the Church back when they started house church. They just did the same thing in their living room. So even though there's just 10 people, there's still someone standing up preaching to those 10 people. It's shocking right now to think back on that. But and they laugh when they think about it. But it's a lacking of an imagination for how to be together in larger group settings in a way that still is joy-filled and Jesus-led. So the Emmanuel Church Night is where we play, we explore together, we co-create with Jesus together what that could look like, because there are probably a million ways that could look. There's not one right way. There's a million. And we like to gather together, we all go to an appreciation memory. We all find Jesus in that appreciation memory so that we're all connected to Jesus, to God, sensing his presence. And we let him lead what being together looks like. And it's very structured to some degree. There is structure, there's control. It's not chaotic. It's not crazy. Well, some people might say it is. For those of us conservative people who aren't necessarily Pentecostals or charismatics, it's not too crazy. But the Spirit gets to do what God wants to do among his people. And it really is a beautiful night normally and usually. And we reflect on it and we get to debrief it. But that night is what that is. And this year is very, very special because we are going to actually invite friends of Luke 10 to join us in that endeavor. So people who might not be at the conference, who might be Emmanuel prayer leaders in Greenville, or maybe they're participants of the Berries ministry there locally. So they do the Berries leader teams and their table and well, and the Berries are going to invite them to try to reimagine church this way as a bigger, what it looks like when we're bigger. Yeah. How can we still stay and maintain our values even though we grow? So we'll have some outsiders, meaning people who aren't on leader teams. And this will be the first time ever we're doing this experiment. And we're doing it because we have felt God from many different people have felt an impression from God that something's happening in Greenville that we need to pay attention to, that's very particular and very special. And God's calling something together there. And so we're trying to just pay attention to that. And we've sensed joy, play, an excitement from God that we don't even understand as we listen to him. So it's very strange, right, to participate and co-create with God when you don't have the whole picture, but you're just kind of following these impulses and these thoughts. And so that's what that circle's been doing as they're trying to structure the night in a way that's that lends itself to Jesus leading all of us together. Anyway, reactions, thoughts, or questions about what we're sensing from God in that, or anything I've shared. Exciting. I think that's what Susan said. Exciting. Yeah, it is. All right. So that
I have a question.
Yes.
So it sounds like I mean, I went to the conference last year and had the Emmanuel Church night. So it's taking kind of what we've done in the past, but trying to weave into the theme, which is like the local expression. So how do we do this when we gather churches of two locally? So we get the experience together, but then we can take it back. Is that kind of, yeah, that's great, because I don't feel like I could have recreated last year's conference in our local gathering, or I just felt like that was a really cool experience for that, but not something.
Yes. And it's not something you can create for a group of people. It is something a group of people create with God together. And that is the huge paradigm shift, because church, for most people, especially in the institution, is people create the experience for me and I just show up. That's no longer church for us. So there is no idea of me going locally and trying to create this for my local people, because you can't do that. Your local people have to be practicing church of two. They have to be listening to Jesus together. They have to be able to connect to him in a live moment so that they can create this together, or at least enough people doing that to have that experience, if that makes sense. So if you don't have enough leaders trained, you really can't do that. You have to go back to training, churches of two, Church 101, churches of two, leader teams. And then maybe you have enough leadership connected to Jesus developed so that you could co-create with God an evening like that. But that is nothing two people can pull off for a people. Does that make sense? Yeah. And maybe let's bring that up at the conference if it's not clear, right? If that is not clearly stated, because it is reproducible, but it's not reproducible in the way old church planting thinks. We're not
program oriented, or
right. We're not giving you a program you can go do for people. Because that's not what we're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's actually really helpful, because I think one of the things I left the conference with, and going back to our local expression back in Virginia, was like, I think I was, now I'm hearing you talk, I realized there's the skills gap with our people in Virginia and then the skills at the conference. And so rather than feeling bad, like, oh, why can't we be there? It's more like, we just need to keep training churches of two. We need to see our families checking in with each other. And that's actually really good work. It's not like we're less than, or, haven't done a good enough job or something. So that's really clarifying.
Yeah. I kind of think of it like if we had a family with children who were under 12, right? Like 4 kids under 12 and a parents, right? They're going to be very different together than a mom and a dad with grown adult children. That's going to look totally differently, right? And this one should never look like the other one, because these are children and they need to be cared for and loved and gently tended to. Whereas these are full-grown adults who can take care of themselves emotionally, and they're ready to reproduce and they're ready to grow. And I think that as we train leader team facilitators, we're training you to parent your community at the stage that they're at, right? And maybe they're not yet at that others, and not to demand more from them than what God's asking from them right now, which could be just tending to your own spouse, your own children, and each other, and loving each other deeply. Love each other. I sensed the Lord say yesterday too, if you just listened to me and loved each other, like that is so more than enough. You don't have to use it. You don't have to start a movement or even gather with more people. If you like, just love me and listen to me and love each other, the people right in front of you. And I'm like, wow, that really is enough. That's really enough. So amazing. But somehow we think we have to do more. And I'm like, don't do more unless Jesus tells you to do more. All right. Thank you, Colleen. Please make sure that comes clear in the conference, because I think that's a huge point. That's really, really, really important. Okay. That a lot of times our reaction round is our listening round, because we share with each other how we're sensing God moving around these specific topics. But a lot of times our listening round is listening around issues that we're struggling with, heavy check-ins that we bring to the table. And so it looks so different every leader team, right? And I definitely don't want to just move right into our next round, which is our 10 to be praying, without making sure that there isn't a major need that we have just brushed over or not paid attention to that anyone is having and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot, this is going on and I would love to listen to Jesus on this or talk about this. So just take a second and check in with yourself and Jesus. Is there anything that you are longing to listen on that maybe we haven't reached today? And if so, just raise your hand or talk. Just tell us if there's something there that you're like, I really feel like we need to listen on, ... Otherwise, we'll go into a 10-2B listening round and praying round. Yes, Susan.
Yeah, so I think, I think, first of all, what Hillary was sharing about the virtual, just praying and listening about that, because I have heard a lot of people express a real desire for it. Whether or not they've connected with her to help with that is another question. And then two, just, I know there's a lot of people that really want to come to the conference, but they have a lot of obstacles in their way. And usually the biggest one is finances. And I know this is, the conference is a little bit expensive this year. And so just praying and listening about obstacles that people are facing when thinking about coming to the conference. So,
thank you. Sounds right up 10-2B lane. Anything else before we move into that then? Did anyone else have anything they wanted to share? Boy.
Yeah, I have a meeting this afternoon with a military friend of mine who's dealing with multiple PTSD items related to 2 wars that he's fought in, and his family's dissolved, and he's really hurting. And I need to meet with him at 3 o'clock. So I want to listen and be present, but also need to remind him whose he is, He belongs to Jesus. So need to do that with tenderness and insight in a targeted way.
And Foy, what would you want most from us? Would you prefer us to pray for that meeting, or could be both? Would you want us to listen on anything you might want to know, God might want you to know about that meeting?
Both.
Okay, great. Okay, why don't we, Foy, quickly, could you just give us a feeling, check in on how you feel about going into that meeting?
Yeah, I'm feeling super tender towards him. He's a long-term friend and was a disciple that I developed a number of years ago. And sad about so many things that have occurred over the last decade with, suicides and divorces and injuries and loss of vocation, and just really hard.
Thank you so much. So why don't we go ahead and take 3 minutes and listen, and let's listen for Foy on anything God might want him to know about that meeting. And let's listen on God, what he wants to know about virtual conference, if anything, or obstacles coming to the conference. So listen on those things, and whatever you hear is fine. If you don't hear on all 3, that's fine. Listen where God draws you to listen on, and we'll get kind of a smattering of things from God on all of these issues possibly, and then we'll pray together as well after we listen. Does that sound good? All right, 3 minutes. I'm going to take my camera and audio down. Do y'all know how to do that? It's right there under us, and I'll come back in 3. Okay. Let's come on back. I'll go first. You know, I usually share, this is so tender and vulnerable when I share the things I see, because obviously I don't know if I'm seeing what God is showing me or if it's just my own imagination. So I offer it with hesitancy, but offer it for you to sift for you and see if the Spirit resonates with you, if that's all right. Okay, so I had an image of this person that you're going to be meeting with sitting. He's just sitting in the floor. His world is in shambles, almost like he had a precious globe and it burst and it went all over the room. And there's just pieces everywhere, but it's very clear that that's his life, right? It's not a globe. It's really his life. And he's sitting there. He's disillusioned, he's crying, and he's broken. And then I see you and Jesus walk in the room together, but he doesn't recognize Jesus there. He just sees you. But you walk in together, and you kind of triangle him, like he's there, and you walk in, and Jesus is kind of right here, so that as you're looking at him, you can see Jesus too. You can kind of see God, Christ's face, while you're looking at your friend right there. And I sense Jesus saying to you, Foy, will you share your face with me? Will you let me embody your face? Let me look through you, because he can't see me right now. So can you just share your face with me? And as you look at Jesus's face, it kind of comes onto yours. You can let him kind of have that part of you. And I sensed you making eye contact with this man. I know you're not even present with him physically. Probably it might be a call, but I still sense you feeling his pain with him and letting Jesus respond to him through your face. And then I just, I sense Jesus saying, and watch me carefully and let me guide you in this. So he can just tell you what you need in each moment as you're focused on Christ, not on your friend, but on Christ with your friend. Almost a part of me even sensed you asking him, you know what, Christ is right here with us in the room. And I'm just wondering, I mean, I could tell you everything you need to know. I could give you verses. I could totally tell you what you need to know and who you are. But I'm wondering if you would actually be up for connecting to Christ yourself and letting him tell you everything you need to know, because he actually wants to do this. He's right here with us. And it'll be much more impactful if he does it for you instead of me. And I don't know if you feel confident leading someone into Christ's presence like that, but I just sense that Jesus just would love to hold this man in his imagination and wants you to be the connector there, to put his hand into Christ's hand and reveal the presence of Christ to him right there with him. Not just being Christ to him, but actually revealing Christ to him to connect them to. But I don't know if that's all from God or not. I'm just going to throw that out there for you.
Thanks. Yeah, I've got no presence facilitating that. I don't think he's in the headspace to receive it at this point. So we will see.
I'm so tender around that. I think it's Leah Nienaber. Her and her husband have such a heart for people in this situation, because he's ex-military as well. And I know she's training herself right now to do recovery military. She'll correct me if I'm wrong. But I just see God raising up Luke Tenners who somehow are playing in this field for whatever reason. So we're going to be holding you all in prayer, because it definitely is a huge, huge need. So thank you for going into it. Please let us know. Colleen?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get that specific image, but very similar themes. Foy of just immediately heard you are not alone, and that where you're weak, I am strong. And so just this sense of like Jesus being with you, and that anytime you don't know where to go or what to do, just that Jesus is right there and he'll show you.
Susan?
So just a quick question. Are we doing just what we
Whatever
heard
you
for
sense.
Foy
Yeah.
first?
Yeah, whatever you sensed. If it's Foy, great. And if not, if someone else has something for Foy, we can go there and then go back. So,
Okay. Yes. So the first thing that jumped right out to me, Foy, when you were sharing, was the idea of him remembering who he is. And this is so silly. And Foy, once you meet my husband, you'll totally understand this. But he actually did a talk or a sermon or whatever on remembering who you are, and he used the clip from The Lion King where the monkey is reminding Simba of who he is and the importance of his role, and that just jumped out at me when you said that, and just that it's a powerful truth. And it's not just for him. I mean, it's for all of us, totally, in terms of remembering who we are. And how to do that for him is, I think God's going to show you how to do that, because it's going to look different for him than it does for us. But the other sense that I got was just to give him your ear, and in the sense of just letting him feel heard, and not trying to fix him or explain it or anything, and not that you would do that, but just giving him an opportunity to just talk and be heard, and and maybe you walk away and nothing's fixed, but he at least feels like, wow, you really listened to me, you really heard me. And even just that small thing can be huge to someone who's in so much pain and struggling. So those were the two things that I got.
thank you, Susan. Hillary?
So I didn't share this, but when we were listening on what we could listen for, Jesus told me, or I just kind of sensed to just doodle and just draw, and I don't have to listen. So I did not listen. I was just doodling.
Thank you.
And resting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, Foy. Anything you want to share that you might have sensed?
Yeah, I didn't get anything from my friend. I got something about the other question, so I'll reserve that.
Go for it. Go for it.
Yeah. What I heard was the Lord saying that the virtual piece is super important. It's going to allow you to accomplish your goals that you're aspiring to. And I think it was Susan who said, or maybe it was Colleen, about the price point being significant and a inhibitive factor. So that's really important going forward to multiply, missionary practitioners. And I also heard him say, it's great to pray, and I'm going to answer that prayer, but you need to follow up and connect with people. And I think that was for Hillary. And for us to help her with that, to connect her with people, like Susan said, who we know might be interested in helping.
Great. And maybe listening, God, who do I know that actually might be passionate about this that I haven't even thought of yet that I can recruit? Yeah. Awesome.
That's it. I'm in.
Thank you. Thank you. Does anyone have anything else to share that they heard about the conference or virtual? Yes, Susan.
How hard can I nod my head? Yeah, boy, I just tack right on to what Foy said. In my mind, as I was like, okay, Lord, what do you want to say about the virtual conference? My question changed, and it was like, okay, what do we need to make this move forward? You know, what do you have, Lord? The first thought I had, and I'm sure Hillary's probably already on top of this because she's always 5 steps ahead of me, is expressing the need specifically about the virtual conference on the Discord channel, in terms of, hey guys, if I don't have help, this isn't going to happen. Because I think that's a big statement, and that kind of lets people know, oh yeah, I should probably step up and help and get in on that. And then the other thing was exactly what Foy was saying, was, are there people that we know of that we could get in touch with and, you know, say, hey, would you be willing to help with this? And so right off the bat, Tom Pritchard came to mind because he has had to cancel. He cannot come to the conference. And he specifically asked me about the virtual conference. So he might be one, as well as the Aaronsons. So they also are not able to come, unfortunately, and may be able to help in some way with the virtual conference. So I'm sure Hillary's probably already talked to all those people because, like I said, she's always ahead of me.
You can keep talking in general circle about it. That's awesome. And listen more for me too, because I might know people too. Colleen, did you sense anything about conference?
Yeah, a lot of similarities. Just been continuing to make the needs known. So about the virtual conference, if people have obstacles, like even what we're doing now with the 67 experiment is clearly stating the need. And that with that, you make the needs known, and then we keep teaching people how to listen to Jesus. And that's like the reframing that, or that's like the different way, right? But Hillary, I just have a strong confirmation too of the boundaries you've set, that you can't do this alone. And that if people don't come alongside, that actually could be Jesus saying it's not for now. And so just feel a real sense of wanting to affirm you in that. And then I just sensed Jesus was saying, see, I'm doing a new thing, from Isaiah 41. But I hear that a lot. So I don't know. It's just, yeah.
And just so you guys know, I do have a meeting with Scott tomorrow on our schedule to talk about the virtual conference. Right now, he's the one kind of in my corner with me. So we'll be hopefully connecting on Rally Up. I'm not sure if he'll be available because his daughter is going to give birth at any moment. So I don't even know. We might have to reschedule that conversation, but that's slated for that time.
Beautiful. Thank you. Beautiful. Anything else that we sensed that maybe we didn't share yet? Yeah, Susan.
Yeah, just the only other thing was just in terms of the obstacles keeping people from the conference, I just had a sense of praying against them. So as a group, whether it's this circle or general circle or conference circle, and especially as we hear about specific things for different people. So
also, we're 2 minutes over, and we usually do a closing round. Can I have y'all for 5 more minutes to be able to do a closing round? Is that okay? If no, Foy's not. Okay, Foy, come on and give us your closing. Thank you for being with us. You're muted.
Closing.
What do you take away most important to you today?
I think a sense of excitement about what's going to happen in September. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it gets exciting. I can't wait. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for being with us. We'll do our closing and then we'll head out. Thank you so much.
See ya.
All right. So we will pray for Foy. If can we pray and then do a quick closing? Does that sound good? Maybe a 1 minute of praying or 2 minutes max. Because I do want to pray for Foy and his friend. I do want to, we can definitely pray more in the general circle about obstacles and people in the conference. So we can take a little more time to do that today there. And then we can do our closing round. Does that sound good? All right. Does anyone feel like I'd like to pray for Foy? Like just kind of in your heart and your body? Thank you, Colleen. Jump in, you go for it.
Jesus, I'm just grateful that Foy is meeting with his friend today and just the tenderness he feels towards him, and just into Tony's image of just the embodiment of you through that in him. And so I do pray, Lord, that Foy would just have a strong sense of your presence, that he would go with the truth and the experience of not being alone in that meeting. And that in his weak moments, he would reach out to you and ask for help and just feel like your immediate presence and direction and sense of how to best care for his friend. And we do pray in faith, Lord, that his friend would take a step closer to being able to see you, to see your face shining on him. And so just show Foy his role in that, and help him also just to be able to release what's not his to carry, as there seems like there's a lot here, a lot of trauma and just things that are present that we know is not all Foy's. So we thank you, Lord, that you can carry that and that you'll be with him.
Mm-hmm. Father God, we do beg you to raise up people that want to do the virtual conference, that want to help, that want to be involved with that, that you will draw them to us and remind us who they are. If they don't reach out, help us know who they are. But I ask that you just light a fire in those who are gifted and called for that sort of thing, if you want that to go forward this year. And thank you so much that we get to pray and ask you for that and not have to carry a lot of weight on ourselves. We pray this in Jesus Christ's name. Amen. Thank you, Colleen, for praying for Foy. So beautiful. What do we take away from our time together? What was most important to you? What did you see God do, or what did you see happen among us as we were together today? Let's take a minute, and any variety of that question, of those questions works. I'm going to take away the power of gentle curiosity for one. I just so enjoyed getting to hear from Susan and from Foy today. You know, we do rounds and things, but we're just a whole universe inside ourselves. And there's so much experience with God in each one of us. And it's so beautiful to be able to kind of dip into that well and bring it out a little and see God's faithfulness and his calling and through each other's experiences, and how we get discipled through just that. We did that alone, it would be enough, right? And then the other thing I take away too is how, Colleen, your perspective is so helpful for us, because we live and swim, drink and eat Luke 10, all three of us, right? And so we miss things. We don't, I don't see how other people are, what they're getting from what we're saying, or what they're interpreting, or how it's landing on them, or what they're understanding. And so your perspective is always so helpful for us to go, oh, I didn't realize that was, let's make sure we get clear about this. So please keep it coming always. We need it. It's kind of like outside eyes. And so thank you for that.
That's great. Well, that's very affirming, Tony, because I think I sit here and I'm like, oh, I want to be like more involved with Luke 10, but I have so much going on in my other parts of my world. And I think I feel this sense of like, my closing round was, or takeaway was, we don't need to like start we just got to Charleston. Like we could take a year to not even start anything, kind of that permission to go slow, to just be a church of two. And I think, I feel a lot of internal pressure just to perform or to be more involved with things. So anyways, your closing round is an affirmation of Jesus using me where I'm at. And just the call today of being grateful that we can just be a church of two. And that really is a blessing to us. And like Jesus loves that, you know, loves healthy marriages and healthy expressions of his church. So yeah, I feel relieved in that.
Yeah. I mean, I literally just hear him say, y'all have no idea how few of you there are, how few marriages that are healthy, that love each other deeply, that display my character. Like, you just don't realize it. You don't realize how important it is. And we don't, because we've been taught that it's big that's important, right? It's the multiplication, it's the outreach, but that stems from this. And if this doesn't exist, then the other isn't going to be sustainable. So.
Well, and the number of people who have asked us, so when are you starting your house church, or what's your plans? And I'm just like, I don't know. Like, we just got here. Like, we don't know anyone. You know what I mean? It's like this pressure of multiplication, like you're saying. So anyways,
yeah. And you already have your house church. You already have it. We already started it. In fact, we never stopped it.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Because it's Greg and I. Mm-hmm. We have it. Maybe I'll find another couple who wants to have their own house church, and I can train them to have their own. And if God calls us together, that's even better, but maybe not.
Right.
Oh man. Thank you. So value you and that tender time that you're in right now. Transition. All right, closing round. Hillary, Susan.
Yeah. I loved Colleen's gentle, curious question with the stress of the virtual conference last year, and how that kind of led into me publicly saying, because I've said it a lot of times in our circles, but not publicly or live stream, that it won't be happening unless people step up. And I put that in the leader lesson, but nobody read it. So it was really cool to kind of have that drawn out and said out loud multiple times. Thank you.
Yeah, so I just really appreciate getting to crash your leader team today. So that was fun and worked out really well. And I love that idea that you just said, Tony, about local expressions, you know, in terms of, you know, like Colleen saying, have all these people coming to us, when are you going to start your house church? And I love the idea of turning that back around and going, well, I'll tell you what, I'd be happy to teach you how to start your own. You know, and it sounds just like Tony too. But it's so simple and so easy. It's like, well, I'd be happy to teach you how to do it. You know, and if we're to be together, great. If not, great. You know, sorry. So just, I've heard you say that before, but just hearing that again is like, yeah, it really is. It really is that simple. And the sole responsibility doesn't always necessarily need to be on me, on us. You know, that might not be what God's calling us to do. Because sometimes I think we just, I have to go do this. I have to go do that. I feel that a lot.
When we're trained as church planters, that's the way it goes. And so for the conference, be thinking about this, especially Colleen, and I know you like skits, Susan. But be thinking about, how do we show this at the conference, this paradigm shift?
That's good.
Me starting a house church and praying tend to be for people to come to my house church, versus what we're really promoting, which is me being a vibrant church of two, training other houses to be vibrant churches of two and be house churches, and then listening to Jesus together on what that looks like when we come together, if we come together. You know, the church of two are trained across the city might have a whole family network, and they don't have time to come together with me at all. They just need to be trained how to be a leader team and run their family. but maybe there's a few people locally that do want it, So we train people to be churches of two, and then we listen on, do we have anything together, or are you already a house of peace rocking it in your ministry or your family, and you don't need to be a house of peace together with me?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Trying to figure out how to show that in a very clear way at the conference. So please be listening to Jesus around that, because I think it's he just won't let go of it. I think it's really important. So I've got lots of people listening on that. So if you have any ideas, let me know. All right, we're over time. Love y'all. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you soon, especially those of us in the general circle.
Tony, let me end it.
Go for it.
We'll end in a moment.